What's up, everybody? It is a Blue Drake, and today we're going to be taking a look at a project where, if this isn't on your radar, it absolutely should be. Welcome to the world, welcome to the universe of infinitesimals. And this is a project that's actually being funded by Epic Games themselves. It's received a mega grant. It is currently in development by one person in particular who I know pretty well because he actually creates marketplace assets on the Epic Games store, which I think is really cool. He creates a lot of stuff, a few things that we even use in some of our projects, like his ballistics VFX, which are really, really awesome. But this game, and you'll actually pick this up if you watch this trailer closely, this game, the reason I'm interested in it is because not is it just beautiful, not is it just, like a visceral, artistic, well put together game, but the premise, the concept is really cool. And look at the trailer a little bit, see if you can pick up on this. If you see all of this vegetation, you'll maybe notice that all of this vegetation are actually single blades of grass. Because this is a game about what if alien life was actually very, very small. And I think this is actually a cool idea because when you think about all of the movies and games and all of these things that depict aliens, they're roughly our size. I mean, there's a little bit of variation, but the true nature of nature doesn't really care about keeping things roughly our size. Even within a few feet, things can be absolutely massive or things can be absolutely tiny. And this is a conversation I've actually had with a bunch of other people, researchers and all sorts of people who are really interested in the idea of interstellar life. And when you think about it, the idea of having interstellar life, of having an interstellar life form that is in fact very, 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 very tiny, but is still capable of thinking and having higher levels of intellect, that is very advantageous to an interstellar civilization. And I think this is why this is really, really interesting. So, let's take a look at some of the footage of this project, because I've been watching this for a while. And as I said, this is a game about things that are very, very small. And obviously, when you are very, very small, things that are very, very small compared to you are very, very big. And this is what first caught my attention about this project. I still remember I was just kind of browsing through, and we use his VFX from the marketplace, and I was kind of looking at a bunch of different developers and their side projects, and I saw this a couple of years ago, and I saw this giant fly running into blocks. And the cool thing about this is that the cool thing about what he's doing is he's combining a whole bunch of different things. So you've been looking at the stuff we've been looking at for soft body physics and all of this other stuff, and even flight dynamics and aerodynamic physics and stuff like this. And the cool thing about what he's putting together is his game combines a lot of different elements. I mean, as you can see, you've got this fly here that has kind of an active ragdoll. It's not in a full ragdoll mode, it's actually moving and it has intent, but it's still reacting to its environment around it. Its legs are hitting all of the blocks and everything. And there's even soft body elements to this, like the thorax. When it hits something, it'll actually, compress, or jiggle naturally. And I think that's what's really, really cool about this concept that he's pioneering here takes all of these different systems and it puts it together in a really interesting way where it combines it to create this singular feature like this fly that's kind of going around. But it's really cool because it has all of these amazing things. And again, if you want to pick up his marketplace assets, ballistics VFX, I can't recommend that enough. I mean, he does really cool stuff, and obviously he's using a lot of this in his game. I mean, we use some of this in our game, or at least, learning from how he did it so we can extrapolate that information and then reapply it to our own game. It's pretty cool. But Infinitesimals is really awesome. And the more that I look at it, the more I'm really impressed. Here is a shot, look at these flowers, these renders that, I mean, even some of the stuff, I can't tell if he's making some of this stuff himself or if he's just pulling inspiration from these kinds of things. But having stuff like really small small things rendered in really high resolution at a large scale. Like look at that flower. Imagine if you could jump into that flower and there's like a battle unfolding inside the, I don't know, that would be really, really cool. And a lot of the other animations, like the concepts, the systems that he's building to support this vision of his is really impressive. Like, so for instance, some of the animations that he creates for his vehicle. So for instance, you've got this little pod here. The concept is that these aliens take these tiny, tiny, tiny little pods that are fairly advanced, and they have all of these limbs that kind of dynamically go out and walk in a very complex manner. Like, it's actually, I mean, I don't know, it's really cool, some of the stuff that he's actually able to pull off with these characters and with these and I mean, look at this. You'll see here's a battle scene. And also a whole variety of other this is crazy. A whole variety of other like alien mechanisms and machines that you're going to be fighting. And you've got these flies that are kind of flying through blades of grass, which are also simulated with physics where they'll bend and kind of push around. You've got your little guy, which has a jetpack, and he can obviously get inside of these vehicles and then take. This is crazy. This is really cool. Like, and not only is it really, really cool, but the premise is, I don't know, I haven't seen a premise like this that is, I mean, because the tech is awesome, and what he's creating in order to support this vision is awesome, but the vision itself is also really unique, and I haven't seen stuff like this before, and he's going all out. Like, I can't even keep up. Whenever I look at his tech demos, there's like 50 things in this single shot that any other developer would do a tech demo on just one of those things. But when he shows stuff off, he's got 50 stuff where I can't keep up, and I'm like, wait, how did you do that and that and that and that and that and that and that, and then it's all put together, and he shows this one shot that has all of these incredibly complex systems that he's been building all working together to create this one cohesive action, and I can't even like understand how the first step of some of this stuff is even put together. I mean, look at this. Look, there's an escape pod. And obviously he's planning on having, like interstellar flight. This is where things could get really crazy. So I don't know, again, keep in mind, I don't really know too much about this project other than what he shows me and what I see from his YouTube channel and stuff like that. A lot of it is kind of, I don't know the full scope, but, and this is where we go into crazy conjecture play. But when I started looking at some of his work regarding space flight, and he's obviously just kind of just kind of putting things together. He's got this planet in the background, and you're flying this ship. And I started thinking about stuff like The Outer Wilds and these other games. Again, planetary exploration nowadays is an emerging feature, and it's something that we're really expanding the technology of, and a lot of people, especially indie developers, are actually including this in their games. You look at Astroneer, you look at Kerbal Space Program, you look at The Outer Wilds, you look at all of these different games, and now having independent planetary bodies that you can travel in between is kind of commonplace. And I think it's about time that we're actually going to start seeing studios that can even be pushing this further. But for a while, people didn't really think about what that would mean. Like, okay, let's say you were to push it, what were we going to have? Bigger planets, more planets. You look at No Man's Sky, we've got 1 billion planets. You've got Star Citizen, and they're focusing on having an entire solar system, and you can travel between all of them. But it's getting to that point where, like, where can you push it from there? It's not like you could have more planets, Like, it's like No Man's Sky's already done is 1 billion planet procedural generation. We know the pros and cons of having that as well. Like, that doesn't necessarily make a game more fun. But, and this is where I think this could be really cool. What if, for what he is doing here, what if he's not actually planning on having, more planets or having all of these planets? What if you can actually travel in between planets, but at the scale this game is set at? What if you've got this planet, and when you travel down, you're in your starship and you actually travel down to this planet, you're not just traveling down, and walking around on like an island. You are going to be traveling down, and then you're going to be landing a spaceship in between blades of grass. In between blades of grass! Like that's next level. That's the now again, I don't know if that's actually what the plan is. I don't know if that's actually what he's doing, but I do know that that is where the industry is headed towards, and we do have the technology to make that happen. And if we're going to get to a world where we can procedurally generate entire planets and we can have like infinite detail all the way down, having a game with this kind of premise where you are actually a very, very, very small creature would be the perfect concept to explore that idea. You know, like what if we have entire planets that you can land on, but relative to you, they're massive. They're like so in ways that are hard to understand. You know, because in this place, we're not taking things. We're not taking things and making them bigger. We're taking us and making us smaller. You know, and here's actually, you saw this in the demo. Here is the dragonfly ship that's flying around. There's all the animations. It's completely dynamic. This is so cool. This is so cool. This is so like, and I love this. Again, the premise of this I also think is really powerful. In fact, I think this is I think this is something that people really need to take to heart. I hope Elon Musk talks about this kind of stuff at some point. I have no idea. As you guys know, getting people into space is incredibly expensive. It's incredibly expensive. I mean, and a lot of what innovation relies on regarding the aerospace industry is making it cheaper to put people into space. But it's getting to this point where we're really hitting a wall here. And you've got people like SpaceX that are pioneering these things, and we've got relandable boosters and all of this stuff. But it's getting to a point where we are really hitting a wall in terms of how much we can innovate to make space flight cheaper. And we have all of these ideas. You've got space elevators and you've got relandable boosters, but then you've got also impending problems like, you know, the Kessler syndrome and stuff like that, where we could potentially really screw up space travel for ourselves if we continue littering things into orbit and making these kinds of problems that come with putting big sacks of meat, us, into space. And I think the reason this is so cool is because when we hit a wall, you know, when it gets to a point where it's difficult to get people into space because, you know, we weigh, I don't know, 100, 200 pounds a person, and it costs, what, $20,000 a kilogram or something like that to get something into orbit. The place to innovate starts not being how can we more cheaply get people into space, or how to make lifting more weight cheaper. The problem then becomes, how can we make people lighter? You know, like, you know, if it really is $20,000 a kilogram, then maybe we should stop focusing on, you know, building bigger rockets and instead making smaller people. You know, because you look at an ant farm. You know, an ant farm has got like 50 billion ants in it. Okay, that's an absolute exaggeration, but there's a lot more ants per kilogram than there are people. And when you take into consideration the idea of interstellar colonization, you know, if launching 1,000 ants into space or launching 1,000 ants to another planet is considerably cheaper and much easier to do than launching 1,000 people. And depending on the ant, I mean, if we could breed some kind of ant that could breathe Martian atmosphere, it doesn't have any of that stuff, I don't know, some crazy genetically engineered ant that doesn't require the kind of stuff that we require to stay alive, they might even do a better job of colonizing other planets than we would, too. Launch a bunch of ant farms and just smack them right into Mars and then see which ones survive. You know, this is an extreme example, but I think this is where this is going. This is where this concept is headed. You know, like, what if an interstellar race was in fact, what if they had perfected the idea of creating intelligent beings that are in fact very, 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 very tiny? And this would be a really good idea. This would be a really good idea for an interstellar race to achieve or to strive towards, because in a lot of ways it's the only realistic way to travel in between planets. I think and there's a lot of other people, I've had this conversation with a lot of people as well, where people say, you know, what happens if we never discover light speed? You know, what happens if there is no Epstein drive that can bend time and space, and we can never. If there is no light speed, that is a massive roadblock in terms of interstellar colonization. And I remember I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about it, and we were like, well, what's the only thing that travels at the speed of light? If there's no way to actually take matter and transport it at the speed of light, what's the only thing that actually travels at the speed of light? And then the answer is light. The answer is light is the only thing that transfers at that travels at the speed of light. And when you think about it, we've already actually taken advantage of using light. In fact, here we're going to go on a little bit of a tangent here on using light in order to transfer information. So you look at you look at your fiber optic cable. You got fiber. That's what fiber is. Your internet service is actually utilizing light in order through a tube. If you ever looked at a fiber optic cable, that's literally what it is. It's like a piece of glass that is able to direct light, and it's almost instantaneous. And when you think about interstellar travel and making things as light as possible, maybe the best idea is making things really, really tiny, or not sending anything at all and only setting up laser relays on or even satellites so you can actually transmit data really, really fast. And that way, all you have to do is you just have to transmit some kind of spore, like a mechanical spore or whatever you have to do in order to create whatever you need, a drone of some kind. You launch that to another planet, and then it builds what it needs to build in order to receive data from your point of origin, and then you can construct everything you need there by transmitting. We don't really need to move people anywhere, technically. And this is the idea behind, not the only idea. Let's see if I can actually find this. Mars? Here we go. See if I can find this. I'm not sure if this... Yeah, here we go. This is the idea behind the Stargate program. And if you've never heard of the Stargate program, it's pretty cool. But the idea of the Stargate program is, okay, what if we can't afford to take something from planet Earth and transport it to... whatever. What if it gets to a point where that is our breaking point? Then it's going to make more sense to just build stuff there. And what they're currently working on is this project called the Stargate program. And it's kind of cool because if you guys don't know what Stargate is, Stargate SG-1, and you go through that wormhole and you can transport matter like anywhere in the universe. This is kind of like a similar idea, but it's kind of transforming what you would consider a Stargate, because instead of actually transporting matter, you're just transferring information to this, and then on site it will construct out of the matter that it has available there whatever you actually need, or whatever you've transmitted to it. And I think this is really cool because their first idea is to build this 3D printer that can operate on Mars and can actually build rocket engines and fuel cells, so that way, instead of us having to actually send supplies to Mars, we can send this there once, and you can use it to build all of the necessary resources and mechanical parts that you would need in order to maintain a spaceship. And that's kind of like the idea. I don't know. So we're way off topic now, but at the same time, we're not really, because I think that's why this is cool. This is the idea. This is a game that is challenging kind of like our concept of what a future alien race or a future interstellar race would look like. And this is a very reasonable idea of what a successful interstellar race would look like, because again, if you're gonna be launching 200-pound meat bags into space as opposed to these tiny, like, less than a pound little people, you could launch 1,000 billion of these for the price of one person, and that changes everything if you can accomplish that. So project's called Infinitesimals. It's really cool. I have to go do a play test right now because I have a play test at 2 that I'm technically 12 minutes late for Warfare 1944. So if you want to come and you want to hang out with us, we've actually got a bunch of games on our Patreon. We're going to be testing Warfare 1944, which is one of our Steam games on Steam right now. So if you want to come and hang out with us on that would be absolutely fantastic. But if not, make sure you press that sub button if you like watching these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, take care, ladies and gentlemen, and remember, as always, Blue Drake loves you.